The small shuttle broke through Earth's cloud cover, descending toward the sprawling campus of Northwestern University. Inside, Zixtar pressed 4 of their 6 fingers against the viewport, their large purple eyes blinking rapidly in excitement. This was it, their first visit to Earth, the mysterious home of the newest members of the galactic community. Approaching landing pad, honored student, the pilot announced. Please secure yourself for touchdown. Zixtar reluctantly moved away from the window and fastened the safety harness, which had been specially designed for Valaxian physiology. Their skin, a soft blue tone with faint luminescent patterns, glowed slightly brighter with anticipation. The shuttle touched down with barely a bump. As the door hissed open, Earth's atmosphere rushed in. Zixtar's sensory tendrils curled slightly at the unfamiliar mix of scents, vegetation, concrete, and something burning in the distance. It was nothing like the carefully filtered air of Valaxi, their home planet. "Welcome to Earth and to Northwestern University," said a tall human with short gray hair and kind eyes. "I'm Professor Alan Martinez. I'll be your academic advisor during your stay." Zixtar performed the traditional Valaxian greeting, extending their upper arms while keeping the lower ones pressed against their sides. "This humble student is honored by your welcome, Professor. I have studied your language and customs for 3 cycles to prepare." Professor Martinez smiled. "Your English is excellent. And please, you can just call me Alan when we're not in formal settings." Zixtar blinked in confusion. On Valaxi, teachers were always addressed by their full titles, even in private. Humans were so casual about hierarchy. It was one of many things that made them unusual among the species of the Cygnus Coalition. "The other exchange students will arrive tomorrow." Alan continued as he led Zixtar toward a sleek building with large glass windows. "You're the first. We have a welcome reception planned, but today I thought you might like to rest and adjust to Earth's gravity." Zixtar walked carefully, their movements slightly bouncy in Earth's lower gravity. "Actually, Professor, I would prefer to begin my studies immediately. My people do not require as much rest as humans. I am most eager to learn." Alan raised his eyebrows but nodded. "Dedicated already. Well, your student guide should be here shortly to show you around campus." "Ah, here she comes now." A young human female with curly brown hair was walking quickly toward them. She wore colorful clothing and had a small device in her hand that she was looking at while walking. "Olivia," Alan called. "Over here." The girl looked up, smiled, and changed direction. "Sorry I'm late, Professor. The biology lab ran long." She turned to Zixtar with wide, curious eyes. "Wow, you're really here. I'm Olivia Dawson, junior year, Cynobiology major." "Greetings, Olivia Dawson," Zixtar said formally. "I am Zixtar of the 3rd Scholarly Clutch of Southern Valaxi." Olivia grinned. "Cool. Can I just call you Zix?" Before Zixtar could explain that shortening names was considered impolite in Valaxian culture, Alan interrupted. "Olivia will show you to your special housing unit and help you get settled. Your academic orientation begins tomorrow at 9 a.m. As they walked across the campus, Zixtar noticed humans staring at them. Some pointed or took pictures with their devices. Valaxians were peaceful observers by nature, and all this attention made Zixtar's skin patterns dim slightly in discomfort. "Don't mind them," Olivia said, noticing their distress. "You're the first alien most of these people have ever seen in real life. They'll get used to you." "My species has been spacefaring for 3,000 years, Zixtar noted. "Yet we only discovered other intelligent life 2 centuries ago. Finding your world just 30 years ago was most unexpected." Olivia nodded. "Yeah, and then we were under that weird quarantine for almost 2 decades before they let us join the galactic community." Zixtar's tendrils twitched with interest. The reasons for the quarantine were never fully explained to junior scholars like myself. "Bureaucratic stuff, probably," Olivia said with a shrug. "Anyway, here's your building. It's been specially modified for non-human biology. As they approached the dormitory, Zixtar noticed subtle security measures, cameras, reinforced doors, and what appeared to be disguised scanning equipment. Curious. For a peaceful academic exchange, the security seemed excessive. But perhaps that was simply how humans did things. After all, they were a fascinating, if primitive, species with much to learn about galactic citizenship, and Zixtar was here to study them, just as much as to study with them. Zixtar woke before Earth's sun had risen. The aliens' large eyes adjusted easily to the dark room of their special dormitory. They had slept for only 3 hours, which was normal for Valaxians. Humans, Zixtar had learned, needed much more rest. The aliens stood by the window, watching the campus slowly come to life as the sun rose. Humans began to appear, walking quickly with drinks in their hands. Zixtar had tried something called coffee yesterday. The bitter taste had made their sensory tendrils curl up in shock. A soft knock came at the door. "Zixtar, are you awake?" It was Olivia's voice. "Yes, you may enter," Zixtar replied. Olivia came in with a bag in her hands. "I brought you some breakfast options. I wasn't sure what you'd like." Zixtar looked at the items Olivia pulled out. There was something round and brown, something yellow and white, and a red fruit. "This is a bagel with cream cheese, scrambled eggs, and an apple," Olivia explained. "All approved by your embassy as safe for Valaxian digestion." "Thank you for your consideration," Zixtar said, picking up the apple carefully. They took a small bite, and their skin brightened with pleasure. "This is quite good. On my world, our fruits are less sweet and more." "What is your word, Tangi?" Olivia smiled. "We have a full day ahead. Professor Martinez wants you to see the whole campus before your classes start tomorrow." As they walked outside, more students were now on campus. Many stopped to stare at Zixtar. Some waved. One group approached quickly, making Zixtar step back. "Whoa, sorry about that," Olivia said to the alien before turning to the group. "Guys, remember the cultural briefing. Valaxians need more personal space than humans." "Sorry," a young man said. "I'm Pete. Are you really from another planet? Can I take a picture with you?" Before Zixtar could answer, Olivia stepped in. "No pictures without permission, and no crowding. Zixtar is a student, not a tourist attraction." The group backed away, looking embarrassed. Zixtar's tendrils relaxed slightly. "I do not understand," Zixtar said as they continued walking. "On my world, it would be considered very rude to approach a stranger and ask for an image capture." "Yeah, humans can be pretty forward," Olivia explained. "We don't always think about personal boundaries. You'll need to be direct if you're uncomfortable." They entered a large building with many books. "This is our library," Olivia said. "Some of our knowledge is still kept in physical form, though most is digital now." Zixtar noticed a section behind a glass door with a security panel. "What is that area?" "Oh, that's the restricted archives," Olivia said quickly. "Just old documents that need special care. Nothing interesting." But Zixtar noticed how Olivia's heart rate increased slightly when she answered. Their species could detect subtle physiological changes that indicated stress or dishonesty. Interesting. Later, they visited the science buildings, the dining halls, and the recreation center. At each place, Zixtar observed humans interacting in confusing ways. "Why did those humans press their mouths together by the fountain?" Zixtar asked. Olivia's face turned slightly red. "That's called kissing. It's how some humans show affection to their romantic partners." "Fascinating. And why were those humans in the field tackling each other over an oddly shaped ball?" "That's football practice. It's a popular sport here." "It looks quite violent," Zixtar noted. "It can be," Olivia admitted. "But it's just a game." By late afternoon, Zixtar's head was swimming with new information. Humans were puzzling creatures. They valued something called small talk, which seemed to serve no purpose. They laughed loudly in groups. They consumed substances that altered their mental states. And everywhere, Zixtar noticed signs of security: cameras, guards dressed as maintenance workers, scanning devices disguised as ordinary objects. Is Earth always so protected? Zixtar asked as they passed another security checkpoint. What do you mean? Olivia asked, looking uncomfortable. There are many security measures here. On my world, universities have no such things. It's just standard safety stuff, Olivia said with a shrug. Nothing special. But again, Zixtar detected that increase in heart rate. Humans were hiding something. But what? And why? As they returned to the dormitory, Professor Martinez was waiting. How was your tour, Zixtar? Educational, the alien replied. Earth is fascinating, though confusing. Your species has many contradictions. The professor smiled. That we do. Tomorrow, we'll begin your first real lesson, a study of recent human history. I think you'll find it enlightening. Something in his tone made Zixtar's skin patterns dim with unease. The lecture hall was nearly empty when Zixtar arrived. Only 5 other students were present, all aliens from different worlds. A green-skinned Melnarian with 4 eyes sat in the front row. 2 insectoid Krell were clicking quietly to each other in the corner. And near the back, a floating jellyfish-like Aurelian glowed softly beside a furry Brontary. Professor Martinez entered the room and closed the door. Welcome to Earth History 101, special section for exchange students. He smiled, but Zixtar noticed tension in his face. Today we'll outline your first major assignment. The professor connected his device to the display screen. A timeline appeared, labeled Earth History 1900 to 2050. Each of you will study a different period of recent human history, Martinez explained. Zixtar, you've been assigned the overview of the entire period, with special focus on major global events. The Melnarian raised a webbed hand. Professor, why are we separated from human students for this class? Martinez adjusted his glasses. An excellent question. We've found that exchange students benefit from a specialized approach to human history. He paused. Our history can be intense for species from more peaceful backgrounds. Zixtar's tendrils twitched. Intense. What did that mean? Valaxians had studied millions of species across the galaxy. What could be so special about human history? Your assignment will require accessing historical archives, Martinez continued. You'll each receive special clearance for the restricted section of the library. The 2 Krell made surprised clicking sounds. Clearly, they too had noticed the unusual security around certain information. Martinez handed out small cards. These are your access passes. I must emphasize the importance of approaching this material with an open mind. Human history is, he seemed to search for the right word, different from what you may expect. After class, Zixtar found Olivia waiting outside. How was your first class? She asked. Curious, Zixtar replied. The professor seemed concerned about us studying human history. Is there something disturbing about it? Olivia shrugged, but her eyes darted away. Every species has some dark chapters. I guess. Come on, we're meeting some friends for lunch. At the dining hall, they joined a group of human students. One of them, a friendly male named Greg, was especially interested in Valaxian culture. So your people have never had a war, ever? Greg asked, sounding amazed. No, Zixtar replied. In our 10,000 years of recorded history, we have had disagreements and conflicts, of course. But violence has always been the last resort, and organized violence between groups is simply unheard of. The humans exchanged glances. What about technological development? Asked another student named Diane. How did your species advance without competition? Slowly, Zixtar explained. It took us 4,000 years to develop space travel after our industrial age began. We value careful progress and consensus. Greg whistled. 4,000 years. Humans went from the first airplane to the moon in less than 70 years. That's remarkably fast, Zixtar said, skin patterns brightening with surprise. What drove such rapid advancement? An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Finally, Olivia spoke up. Necessity, mostly, and natural human curiosity. Later that afternoon, Zixtar met two other alien students near the library. Kyle, a Brontari whose real name was unpronounceable to humans, and Maria, a name given to the Aurelian who communicated through color patterns. Are you also researching human history? Zixtar asked them. Yes, Kyle's translator device said. My mentor seemed unusually concerned about my reaction. Maria's body flashed a pattern that her translator rendered as, mine too. She suggested I prepare myself emotionally for the research. What could be so troubling about human history? Zixtar wondered aloud as they approached the restricted archives. They are primitive compared to our civilizations, only achieving space travel recently. Kyle's furry face formed what looked like a frown. Perhaps it is not what they did, but how quickly they did it. Something drove their development at an unnatural pace. As they swiped their access cards at the restricted section door, Zixtar felt a strange sense of foreboding. Whatever they were about to learn about humans, it was something the Earth people seemed reluctant to share openly. The door slid open, revealing rows of digital archives and physical documents. Let us begin, Zixtar said, moving toward a terminal. How bad could it possibly be? The digital archive room hummed quietly as Zixtar sat before the screen. Their 6 fingers moved across the interface, navigating through files labeled 20th Century. Overview. The alien had been researching for hours, and what they discovered was becoming increasingly disturbing. World War I. The screen displayed. Zixtar read about millions of humans dying in muddy trenches, about poison gas and machine guns. Their skin patterns dimmed with horror. Then came World War II. The numbers were even worse. 50 to 80 million dead. Weapons of increasing power. Cities destroyed in single nights of bombing. And then, most terrifying of all, something called atomic bombs that could destroy entire cities with a single blast. Zixtar's tendrils curled tightly against their head in distress. This couldn't be right. How could a species survive such self-destruction? Are you well, friend Zixtar? Kyle, the Brontari, approached from a nearby terminal. His fur was standing on end, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. I am processing, Zixtar replied slowly. Have you found similar information? Kyle's translator device hummed. Yes. Humans call it the Cold War. 2 groups of humans pointed planet-destroying weapons at each other for decades. They built enough bombs to kill their entire species many times over. Maria, the jellyfish-like Aurelian, floated over. Her body was flashing dark colors of distress. I have studied their regional conflicts. Even when not fighting world wars, humans continued smaller wars constantly. There was no peaceful period. The 3 aliens grouped together, sharing their discoveries in shocked whispers. Look at this technological progression, Zixtar said, displaying a timeline. In 1903, the first powered flight. By 1969, they reached their moon. By 2030, they had permanent bases there. That's barely over a century. My species took 800 years to make the same progress, Kyle noted, his voice trembling. Mine took 1,200, Maria's translator conveyed. Zixtar continued searching the archives. Something called the space race caught their attention. As they read, a disturbing pattern emerged. Their greatest technological advances came from military competition. Zixtar said, rockets were first developed as weapons. Space exploration was driven by military rivalry. Even their global information network, the Internet, began as a military communication system. The aliens fell silent, considering the implications. If warfare drove their development so rapidly on Earth, Maria flashed. What will happen now that they have joined the galactic community? A cold feeling settled in Zixtar's core. They checked the time. It was late, past midnight. The archives would close soon. I need to research one more thing, Zixtar told the others. The quarantine period. Why was Earth isolated for 20 years after discovery? Zixtar searched for files on the first contact between humans and the galactic community. Much was restricted, requiring higher clearance than they had. But they found enough to piece together a disturbing picture. Initial surveys of Earth had detected nuclear weapons, ongoing regional conflicts, and rapidly advancing technology. The quarantine wasn't to protect other species from humans. It was to assess whether humans were too dangerous to include in galactic society. Zixtar's skin turned a pale blue of fear. What had changed? Why had the quarantine ended? The files didn't say. As they left the archives, Zixtar noticed their hands were shaking. How could they sleep in a building, on a planet, full of beings whose entire history was driven by conflict, whose technological development was unnaturally accelerated by the desire to kill more efficiently? Outside, the campus was quiet under the night sky. Zixtar looked up at the stars, feeling suddenly very far from home. The peaceful Valaxian civilization had no concept for what they had just learned. There wasn't even a word in their language for war until they met other species. Is everything okay? A security guard approached, making Zixtar jump. It's late to be out alone. Yes, fine, Zixtar said quickly, noticing the bulge of what they now recognized as a weapon under the guard's jacket. Just returning to my dormitory. As Zixtar hurried away, one thought kept repeating. Humans weren't just another species. They were something else entirely. Something dangerous. Zixtar couldn't sleep. Their room felt small and trapped. Every noise made them jump. Humans, the species they had thought was primitive and harmless, had a history soaked in blood. As morning light began to creep through the window, Zixtar made a decision. They needed to contact the other alien students immediately. Using their communication device, they sent urgent messages to Kyle and Maria. Meet by the lake. 1 hour. Emergency. While waiting, Zixtar packed a small bag with essential items. Then they slipped out of the dormitory, careful to avoid the security cameras they now noticed everywhere. The morning air was cool by the lake. Few humans were around at this early hour. Kyle arrived first, his fur still messy from sleep. Maria floated over soon after, her jellyfish body pulsing with worried colors. I could not rest, Kyle's translator said. The things I learned. Nor could I, Maria flashed, her colors showing distress. Zixtar looked around carefully before speaking. I've been thinking all night. There's something very wrong here. Humans develop technology far too quickly. Their entire history is built on warfare. And now they're out among the stars. What are you suggesting? Kyle asked. I believe we may be in danger, Zixtar said, their voice low. Not immediate danger, perhaps. The humans have been polite. But think about it. What happens when a species that solved problems through violence for its entire history joins a peaceful galactic community? Maria's colors shifted to a pattern that showed deep thought. They might see other species as weak. As targets. Precisely, Zixtar said. My research showed that the quarantine on Earth was put in place because other species were afraid of humans. But then it was mysteriously lifted. Perhaps the humans agreed to certain terms, Kyle suggested. Zixtar's tendrils twitched nervously. Or perhaps they simply learned to hide their true nature. Did you notice the security everywhere? The restricted information. They don't want us to know their full history. The three aliens fell silent, considering the implications. What should we do? Maria's translator finally asked. I've been thinking about that too, Zixtar replied. The Valaxian embassy has an emergency extraction plan for students who need to return home quickly. I believe we should use it. Kyle's fur stood on end. Leave Earth. But the academic program is not worth the risk, Zixtar cut in. Yesterday, I knew nothing about humans except what they showed us. Today, I know there is a species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times with increasingly deadly weapons. A species that went from primitive flight to nuclear bombs in a few decades. Maria pulsed with blue light. My research showed something interesting too. Humans are physically weaker than many species, with no natural defenses. Yet they dominated their world by creating tools and weapons. They're natural tool makers. And now they have access to galactic technology. Zixtar added grimly. Imagine what weapons they could create. Kyle looked troubled. But not all humans can be dangerous. Olivia has been kind. Professor Martinez too. True, Zixtar admitted. Individual humans may be peaceful, but their society, their history, it's built on competition and conflict in a way our worlds never were. They looked out across the lake, watching the sun rise higher. More humans were appearing now, jogging along paths or sitting with their devices. The emergency extraction point is on the north side of this lake, Zixtar explained. If we signal now, a shuttle could be here within 6 hours. We could be off this planet by nightfall. What about our mentors? Maria asked. Should we tell them? Zixtar hesitated. I don't know if we can trust them. What if they try to stop us? What if the whole exchange program is just a way to study us, to learn our weaknesses? The paranoia that had been building all night was now spilling out into Zixtar's words. Part of them knew it might be an overreaction, but the history they'd discovered was too terrifying to ignore. I'm going to signal for extraction, Zixtar decided. You can come with me or stay. But I cannot remain on a planet of warriors who have disguised themselves as scholars. Zixtar removed a small silver device from their pocket. With trembling fingers, they pressed a sequence of buttons. A soft blue light began to pulse, sending an emergency signal to the Valaxian embassy. 6 hours until extraction, Zixtar said. We should move away from the university. Too many humans there. Kyle's fur rippled with uncertainty. I'm still not sure. Look, Maria's translator interrupted as her body flashed warning colors. Across the lake, Olivia was walking quickly toward them. Behind her was Professor Martinez and 2 men in plain clothes that Zixtar now recognized as security personnel. They know, Zixtar whispered. We need to leave. Now. The 3 aliens turned and moved quickly into a wooded area near the lake. Zixtar's hearts were beating rapidly. The extraction point was on the opposite shore, about 3 miles away. They would need to circle around. Zixtar. Olivia's voice called from behind them. Wait, please, we just want to talk. Do not respond, Zixtar told the others. Remember what we learned. Humans are masters of deception. They moved deeper into the trees. Kyle, with his 4 powerful legs, took the lead. Maria floated silently above them, her body now dimmed to avoid detection. Zixtar struggled to keep pace, not used to moving quickly over rough terrain. I think I hear them following, Kyle's translator whispered. Zixtar listened. Yes, there were footsteps and voices behind them. The humans were pursuing them through the woods. Split up, Zixtar suggested. Meet at the extraction point. Kyle nodded and bounded away to the left. Maria pulsed once in agreement and floated right, staying close to the tree canopy. Zixtar continued straight ahead, moving as quietly as possible. The forest opened onto a small human neighborhood. Zixtar hesitated at the edge of the trees. There were humans everywhere, walking on sidewalks, sitting in yards, driving vehicles. There was no way to pass through unnoticed. Just as Zixtar was considering their options, a small human child spotted them. The child, no more than 6 years old, stared with wide eyes. Hello, the child said simply. Zixtar froze. What should they do? Run? Try to blend in. Impossible with blue skin and 6 arms. The child approached, holding something. You look hot. Want my ice cream? Zixtar stared in confusion at the sweet-smelling cold substance being offered. Why would this young human help them? Was it a trap? Jimmy, Come back here, a woman called, then stopped short when she saw Zixtar. Oh, you're one of the exchange students, aren't you? Before Zixtar could respond, the woman smiled. You look lost. Do you need help getting somewhere? This kindness was confusing. These humans didn't seem dangerous at all. For a moment, Zixtar wondered if their fear was misplaced. Then they remembered the millions dead in human wars, the nuclear weapons, the constant conflicts. No, they couldn't risk trusting humans, no matter how friendly they seemed. I am fine, Zixtar said stiffly. Just taking a walk. Zixtar. Professor Martinez's voice called as he emerged from the trees. There you are. We've been looking everywhere for you. The professor approached slowly, hands visible to show he meant no harm. Your communication device triggered a security alert. Is everything okay? Zixtar backed away. I need to leave Earth. Now. Martinez's face showed concern. What happened? Did someone threaten you? No, Zixtar replied, tendrils quivering. I learned about your history, your wars, your weapons, how your species advanced through violence. Understanding dawned on the professor's face. Ah, I see. You found out about our past, and it frightened you. Wouldn't it frighten you? Zixtar asked. A species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times now has access to galactic technology. The professor sighed deeply. There's so much more you need to understand, Zixtar. Our history isn't just about war. It's about overcoming our violent nature. Olivia appeared from the trees, breathing hard from running. Zixtar, please, don't run away. Not until you've heard the whole story. Zixtar hesitated. The extraction point was still 2 miles away. There was no easy escape route through this neighborhood. And something in Martinez's eyes seemed genuine. What whole story? Zixtar asked cautiously. Professor Martinez gestured to a nearby bench. Let's sit down, Zixtar. Please. Zixtar looked around nervously. The extraction point was still far away. Kyle and Maria were nowhere to be seen. With reluctance, the alien sat at the edge of the bench, ready to run if needed. First, you should know that we expected this reaction, Martinez said gently. It happens with most peaceful species who learn about human history. That's why we have the special history program for exchange students. A tall human in a neat uniform approached them. His face was serious, but not threatening. This is Captain Frank Harris, United Earth Navy, Martinez explained. He's here to help answer your questions. The captain nodded politely to Zixtar. Your reaction is perfectly rational. If I learned that a species had a history like ours, I'd be concerned too. Zixtar's tendrils twitched with confusion. Then you admit your species is dangerous. We were, Harris said. And in some ways, we still can be. But there's something crucial you're missing. Olivia sat down next to them. Zixtar, did you read past the year 2050 in your research? No, Zixtar admitted. I was too disturbed by what I found. Martinez nodded. That's the problem. You only saw our violent past, not what came after, not what we became because of that past. Harris pulled out a small device and projected an image into the air. It showed a battle scene. Humans in spacesuits defending a small colony against insect-like creatures. The Draxan attack on the Proxima colony, 2089, Harris explained. The first time humans faced an openly hostile alien species. The image changed to show human ships forming a protective line around smaller vessels of various designs. The evacuation of the Mendari homeworld, 2103, Harris continued. When their sun began to destabilize, we were the only species with enough ships to evacuate their population in time. Zixtar watched, confused. I don't understand. What does this have to do with human violence? Everything, Martinez said. Our history of conflict gave us unique abilities. We built ships designed to withstand attack because we always expected attack. We developed rapid response protocols because we had millennia of disaster management experience. We became the protectors, Olivia added softly. Harris nodded. The galaxy is mostly peaceful now, but it wasn't always. When humans first ventured beyond our solar system, we discovered something troubling. Peaceful species like yours were being exploited by more aggressive ones. Zixtar's skin paled. The Krenith expansion. We lost 3 outer colonies to them before they suddenly stopped. They stopped because they encountered us, Harris said simply. And unlike your people, we recognized their tactics because they mirrored our own past. We knew exactly how to stop them. Zixtar's mind was racing. The quarantine period was for our protection, not yours, Martinez finished. The galactic community was afraid we would be destroyed if aggressive species discovered us first. They wanted us to develop our technology further before introducing us. I don't understand, Zixtar said. Why would they care about protecting humans? Harris smiled sadly. Because they needed us. The peaceful majority of galactic species had no defense against aggressive minorities. They needed a species that understood conflict but chose peace. They needed humanity. A small crowd had gathered around them now. Both humans and several alien students, including Kyle and Maria. Everyone was listening intently. Our history is violent, Martinez acknowledged. But it taught us something valuable. We know the cost of war better than any species in known space. We've seen its worst horrors. And that's precisely why we're now so committed to preventing it. Humans are the shield, Harris said. We stand between the peaceful majority and those who would exploit them. Yes, we advanced quickly through conflict. But now we use that advancement to protect others. Zixtar looked at the faces around them, human and alien. Their fear was fading, replaced by a new understanding. The extraction shuttle, Zixtar said suddenly, remembering, has been notified of a false alarm, Harris replied, unless you still wish to leave. Zixtar looked at Olivia, at Martinez, at the kind woman and child who had offered help with no reason to do so. I think, Zixtar said slowly, I have more to learn about humans. 1 month later, Zixtar stood before a room full of newly arrived alien students. Their blue skin glowed with confidence as they addressed the nervous group. Welcome to Earth. I am Zixtar, your senior student guide. I know many of you have concerns about studying on this planet. I did too, when I first arrived. The room was quiet. 8 alien students from 6 different worlds watched Zixtar with mixture of curiosity and worry. A young Narration raised her hand. Is it true what they say about human history, about their wars? Zixtar nodded. Yes, human history contains violence on a scale that most of our species have never known, but that is only part of their story. Zixtar activated a display screen on the wall. Images appeared, humans building homes after disasters, treating the sick during plagues, standing between weaker species and aggressors. In the past month, I have studied human history more completely, Zixtar explained. Yes, they fought terrible wars. But from those wars came medical advances that saved millions of lives. From their conflicts came diplomatic skills that now prevent conflicts. Olivia entered the room, carrying refreshments for the new students. She smiled at Zixtar as she set down the tray. Humans are not perfect, Zixtar continued, but they have done something remarkable. They have looked at their own violent nature and chosen a different path. Not because it was easy, but because they understood the cost of the alternative. A small insectoid student clicked nervously. But are they safe to be around? My parents were worried. A fair question, Zixtar replied. Let me tell you about my first weeks here. When I learned about human wars, I tried to run away. I was terrified. But even as I fled, humans showed me kindness. A child offered me food. A mother asked if I needed help. The new students listened intently as Zixtar continued. Since then, I have visited human hospitals where they heal any being who needs help, regardless of species. I have seen their art, which often shows their deep longing for peace. I have read their literature, which frequently warns against the dangers of violence. Professor Martinez entered the room and stood quietly at the back, listening. Most importantly, Zixtar said, I have learned why humans were invited to join the galactic community despite their history. 3 years ago, when the Carex horde threatened the peaceful Novan colonies, humans sent their ships without hesitation. They lost 200 of their own people protecting a species they had just met. The room was silent. Even the nervous clicking had stopped. Humans understand violence in ways we peaceful species cannot, Zixtar explained. They recognize its warning signs. They know how to counter it, and they willingly place themselves between danger and those who cannot defend themselves. Zixtar touched a small pin on their clothing. The Earth and Valaxi symbols intertwined. It was a new program emblem that Zixtar had helped design. I am now working on a new research project, Zixtar said. The title is The Protective Paradox: How Humanity's Violent Past Created the Galaxy's Most Effective Peacekeepers. Professor Martinez is my advisor. The professor nodded with a smile from the back of the room. So yes, be careful as you study human history, Zixtar advised the new students. It will disturb you. It should disturb you. But do not make my mistake and run away before learning the full story. Olivia stepped forward. We're organizing a trip to the Peace Museum tomorrow. You'll see how humans remember their conflicts not with pride, but as warnings. As the meeting ended and the new students filed out, Zixtar remained behind with Olivia and Professor Martinez. You did well, the professor said. How do you feel about your new role as student ambassador? Zixtar's skin glowed with subtle patterns of pride. I believe it is important work. Understanding between species does not come easily, especially when our histories are so different. Olivia smiled. You know, some of us were worried you'd never come back after running away that day. I almost didn't, Zixtar admitted. But then I realized something important about humans. What's that? Martins asked. You are the only species I have ever encountered who is actively trying to overcome your own nature, Zixtar said. That makes you not more frightening than other species, but more admirable. Outside the window, Earth's sun was setting. Zixtar watched the golden light and felt, for the first time, truly at home on this strange, complicated world.